He is a force beyond the ordinary experience, and he's here.
Next on AM 1480 WLEA, The Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
The question is Dr. Robert A. Heineman, Alpha University Political Science Professor Emeritus, transcendent?
Yes. Well, we certainly believe in the transcendent. Whether we're able to segue our way into it or not, it's a whole nother story. But beyond the ordinary, huh?
I was reading
I've
one of
heard
your
that
philosophical papers.
What?
I was reading one of your philosophical papers.
Well, I hope you took a rest afterwards.
Results from New Hampshire, your take.
Well, it's pretty much the same as I think everybody else. I think it was a plus for Klobuchar all the way. I think Bernie did not do as well as he should have, and I think that there's something going on out there, Brian, and what it is, I don't know, whether it's this gay lesbian movement or some other kind of movement that gives Buttigieg this tremendous support. Now, again, the gays and lesbians are really quite well organized, and they have a lot of money. But does that explain his ability to run as well as he has in Iowa and New Hampshire? I don't know. The problem with the guy is, number one, he has almost no experience, and number two, he doesn't answer questions at all. He gives you these high-sounding answers with a lot of flourishes and good-feeling comments, but you have no idea where this guy stands on anything. And then, of course, a lot of the progressives, the really far out there leftists in the Democrat Party are not happy because he worked for the big, a big hedge investment firm, right? I'm pretty certain.
He's a Yale guy.
Yeah.
Will there be any dislike of him because of his college choice?
Well, the Ivy League thing does move him a little out on the edge there in terms of. On the other hand, Elizabeth Warren is a Harvard. Of course, she's not doing that well either.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering, with
it's
the
point. Yeah.
With Donald Trump in there, who didn't go to any of these big important schools. Is that a rejection in part anyway of the Harvard-Yale thing?
Well, I don't think it plays nearly as well as it did in the past. I'm not certain.
I'm not against these people, Yale and Harvard and all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff, yeah.
But
it is true.
We got Cornell nearby.
Yeah,
I know
school.
A kid from Cornell High who went to Cornell University. Nice guy.
Fine school.
But I'm just wondering, is the American people, will they see this Yale on his resume as an establishment thing?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I guess I got the answer across on that one. Oh, yeah.
Okay, moving on to...
The thing is, a guy is several people have said, is really kind of dangerous. You have no idea what he stands for. And he's getting votes for some reason, just on being a pleasant, I guess, kind of charismatic fellow. Warren it's kind of interesting. She's just sort of disappearing from the whole scene here.
Is that because of the American Indian thing?
No, I don't think so. I think she's just worn herself out. I think, she's been campaigning for at least a year, and she probably makes 2 or 3 stops, maybe more a day during most of that period. All this energy and such, but her message is just kind of floating off to nowhere. There she is out there waving her arms and fists.
Yeah, I was
around.
about to say that. Do you notice how she does this?
Yeah.
The radio viewers can't see me, but she waves her hands up in the air.
Yeah, folks, Brian is in here waving his hands around in the air, yes.
We should do a webcam.
Making about as much impact as Elizabeth Warren does, yeah. And then Biden, of course, I guess I can't get too concerned about Biden and his supporters because, frankly, although I'm sure a lot of them have worked hard, there's nothing I think like you had behind Warren, and just kind of drifting off. So, all in all, I guess I return to my earlier statement. There's something going on there that we really don't, and nobody really seems to have a handle on. Now, the big looming presence here, of course, is the little fellow,
Mike Bloomberg.
Mike Bloomberg,
Former mayor of New York City.
I believe, yes, and a fairly wealthy man. And what we're going to see here is, I think, a situation, and not I don't know if I mentioned Klobuchar there in New Hampshire. I think she did very well. She's coming on. But here's the problem. Bloomberg is ignoring these early primaries, and so you get some of this discussion like Bernie Sanders has got momentum. He's won the popular vote in both New Hampshire and Iowa, and maybe he'll win in Nevada. We might touch on that a little bit here, but so he'll be coming into Super Tuesday with a momentum. Well, I don't think so. I think you're going to see Bloomberg's efforts impose a pretty hefty obstacle to quite a number of these candidates, and especially Buttigieg and Klobuchar, who really don't have the kind of grassroots ground organization that Bloomberg is putting together. Bloomberg has gone out and hired some of the top political organizers in the country. And he's especially hired those in states that are marginal or could go either way in the general election and, I suppose, in the primaries. So Texas, California, North Carolina, Virginia, there's a lot of big states up there, Massachusetts, on Super Tuesday. And not only has he hired outstanding organizers in those states, but apparently he is paying them huge amounts of money. So that I think he's probably even picked up some Republican organizers who've shown that they can do very well. So you're looking at a real solid organizational effort here by Bloomberg, plus the amount of money he's pouring into advertisements and such. I think some of these candidates that think they're got momentum are going to run into a brick wall here on Super Tuesday. And we said this previously in our programs, I believe.
Yeah, you've been saying this a lot.
Bloomberg is right now. Some of the polls have him at 15%, and he really hasn't done anything himself in that respect. It's all basically groundwork and sort of building on the fundamentals. Now, it's possible he'll get in the debate, and you got to believe that some of these people are going to take some real shots at him in the March 19th debate. So we'll see how he handles that. Now, one thing that is kind of interesting about Bloomberg is, though, in terms of the candidates out there, his unfavorably ratings are higher than anybody else's. On the other hand, I think one of the reasons he's doing so well in the polls is that people are pretty dissatisfied with the ones that are in there already. So it's kind of a mixed bag there.
Sorry for the pause. I was typing something, looking up something on Google while you were speaking.
I see. Could you pay attention here, Brian?
I wanted to ask you about Brian Kolb not running for the assembly again. He's already out. He's no longer the
minority leader.
Assembly minority leader.
Right.
He's because of his DWI. He's not going to run again. Apparently. Did you have any thoughts there?
Well, I think that was in a way not unexpected. I think that may well be part of some kind of plea deal that he has arranged with the prosecution. And part of the deal being that he'll step down as assemblyman as well. I don't know. We'll see. See what kind of deal he gets. But that's quite possible. So I don't know who the Republicans and Democrats are going to put up there for that seat. I would guess that, his first election he won by 7 votes, so I don't know. There could be a few Democrats running around out there, too.
We have the Nevada primary coming up Saturday, February 22nd. Did you want to weigh in on that with any predictions or thoughts?
Well, I don't know. At this point, it's a little early, but that's another caucus primary. And for some reason, they will not be using the app that the folks in Iowa used. I guess they're going to go back to the traditional caucus approach. And by the way, the Democrat state chairman of Iowa has resigned, apologizing and stepped down. And what was kind of interesting about that was that app that they were using in Iowa apparently was provided by a former business association of Buttigieg. So there was some feeling that it wasn't the whole operation. They had a certain amount of bias in it. But the situation in Nevada, bouncing around there, the SEIU is really quite powerful in the Democrat Party out there, the SEIU being the Service Employees Union. And apparently they're unhappy because Bernie, who you think would be their candidate,
right?
Bernie has been pushing Medicare for all, and apparently they've just negotiated a big union contract with a lot of health benefits to their employees, and they're feeling that this is going to cost them in terms of their union benefits. So I don't know how that'll play because there isn't much else out there in Nevada. I mean, the employees union there, I mean, that's a pretty powerful operation. So we'll see if they're able to turn out one. And the question would be whom are they going to support? I think there's a pretty heavy Hispanic element in there too. So we'll just have to see how that plays.
Don,
go ahead.
I have a question on Medicare.
Yeah.
And Medicaid. The Democrats, such as New York Senior Senator Chuck Schumer, they're saying there's going to be big cuts to Medicare, big cuts to Medicaid, and so on and so forth. They've said, this has been something that they've said, I think, every year. Is this something that you go in one ear and out the other, or is this really true?
Well, I think what's happening is that I think the Medicare, I'm not certain it's I don't know which it is, so I really shouldn't be saying too much here. But the key is that the Trump administration is going to package some of these benefits as block grants and aid, so that instead of packaging the benefits for specific medical issues and areas, they're going to package them with a certain amount of money, and the states then can play with that how they want. And that could lead to some cutbacks in certain health benefits. On the other hand, it might improve the quality of the delivery of the insurance and things of that sort. But that in general is, I think, is what Schumer and these guys are trying to play up as major cuts. But that, again, we'd have to look at it a little closer, Brian.
From Senator Schumer's Twitter page, it says, Trump suing to repeal our health care law and end protections for Americans with pre-existing conditions. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't know. Again, I don't know. I do know, though, that the attacks on Obamacare and the mandatory fees that have to be paid under the Obamacare approach has been again attacked in the lower courts, and at least one of the lower courts has held that this is unconstitutional, that you can't force people to pay a penalty if they haven't enrolled in an insurance plan. Now, if that goes on up to the Supreme Court, we'll have to see how the Supreme Court plays that, or how the courts generally play it. But if they're successful in having that overturned, it does weaken the whole affordable health care plan pretty badly. So there could be some major changes there.
If I can read a tweet, I should say, from President Trump on Twitter.
Yes.
Okay. Now he's referring here to General John Kelly, saying that General John Kelly said that Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, was a good soldier, and just being a good soldier when he did what he did during the impeachment. And Trump says on Twitter, when I terminated John Kelly, which I could not do fast enough, Kelly knew full well that he was way over his head. Being chief of staff just was not for him. Kelly came in with a bang, went out with a whimper, but like so many former employees, he misses the action and just cannot keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a nasty thing to say. I think Kelly's a pretty good man. I do not think much of Inman because I think, again, if the president's going to have a national security staff, he's got to have people that he can trust. I do see where the administration has talked Hope Hicks into returning.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on that. That was
she's
an
good.
Upcoming question.
Yeah, she's very good. So that'll help the Trump people out quite a bit, I think. Yeah, no. So they're, at this point, I think they're beginning to build probably a pretty effective campaign machine. And again, looking at Trump's achievements, which, to put it mildly, are considerable, right now we're looking at a situation where it's being reported that if the Taliban forsake any kind of violence here for the next 7 days or so, the U.S. is willing to enter into an agreement to withdraw from Afghanistan. And so we'll see if they have managed to do that. One of the problems, I think, in that kind of situation is that there are probably people in the Taliban that would like to force the U.S. in there even longer. So to keep them from going out and planting some bombs and things is going to be pretty tough to do. But the Taliban may be able to pull it off, in which case we're going to pull out. Although I don't think we'll ever pull out of Bagram Air Force Base. I think we'll maintain some one or two major military installations there. But in terms of pulling most of the U.S. troops out, and I think NATO's getting ready to pull out as well, time to put an end to this sorry affair.
On the topic of pulling out, the Senate and the House in Washington have both passed legislation in each house there to prevent President Donald Trump from being able to send troops wherever he wants in Iran. Now, my question is, with Trump being under heavy criticism for Syria and Turkey and blah, 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 why are the Democrats doing this? And some Republicans too, but why are they doing this if Trump seems to be more along the lines of not a Rand Paul, but he does seem to not want to send troops into harm's way?
Right. Well, I think the bottom line here is the question of the integrity of two institutional forces here under the Constitution. And I think clearly Congress wants more say in what's going on, and after all, Congress does have the power to declare war. That's given to them in the Constitution. The problem with that, of course, is that we've gotten involved in a lot of police actions and et cetera that look very much like wars. So Congress is constantly trying to somehow bring this under control. At the same time, the President Trump especially, but other presidents, view this as a encroachment upon their able to act and as commander-in-chief and chief spokesman in the area of foreign affairs. So you got two institutional forces there going at loggerheads. And but I think the arguments I've seen indicate that Trump will just go ahead and veto this legislation or resolution anyway. And I doubt that they have the votes to override his veto. Well, it is true. Think of it. The War Powers Act, which was passed under Nixon, was passed over his veto. Nixon vetoed the War Powers Act, which limited the president's ability to commit troops to a certain amount of time, and required a notification of Congress and required congressional approval within, I think, 60 days. Nixon vetoed that, but Congress passed it over his veto. Now, again, this is back during the Vietnam period and, invasions in Cambodia and things of that sort. So people were pretty tired again of another police action.
I wanted to finish up with the topic of Congressman Tom Reed. Here's a tweet from Reed from yesterday. The unrecognized benefits of tax cuts are amazing. 3% rise in wages. That's an extra $1,500 for a household making $50,000. 5-0. Utility rates are dropping. Opportunity zones are boosting disenfranchised people out of poverty, helping those who need it the most.
Yeah. Good.
I guess what I feel is, the mainstream media is hammering away everything's terrible, everything's terrible, everything's terrible. Is that what the average American is sensing? And if they don't sense that everything is terrible, how does that affect them at the voting booth?
Well, I think the Republicans are doing all right in terms of, support. And again, in New Hampshire, as you know, President Trump got the most votes in the primary, more votes than any other incumbent president has gotten in in the last 40 years, I guess. We're running for re-election. So a lot of people turned out and voted for him just to show support. And I think a pretty good chunk of those people were Democrats. And, of course, as you know, previous to the primary in New Hampshire, Trump held a big rally in New Hampshire just to kind of get the troops fired up. And I think that's the one where he asked them to go out and vote for the weakest Democrat candidate, and then said, well, they all look pretty weak to me. I don't know. So some of them just went ahead and voted for Trump. So I think what we're seeing here is that people realize things are, in fact, pretty good, more than pretty good, actually. And I think what we're looking at here, Brian, if we cut through all this miasma and media short-sightedness, we're looking at the potential for a pretty serious landslide coming down the pike here in November. And so we'll see.
I don't think they realize the more they gang up on him, the more people are going to feel, gee, this guy's getting picked on. I don't like that.
Right. Well, and I think you get more and more the feeling is all the abuse he has taken, and he still keeps coming. He still keeps coming, and people respect that. They may not respect what he says and some of the ideas. I still think we should buy Greenland, doggone it, but nonetheless, the people have some respect for a guy who holds up like he has.
Yeah, they didn't learn the lesson with the whole Newt Gingrich, Bill Clinton thing.
Yeah.
And that was their own party that happened to.
Right. Yeah, no, we'll see, but if things continue the way they are, I mean, we get out of Afghanistan, we enter into trade negotiations and some good trade deals with the United Kingdom. Man, it's there are still some very good things to happen out there.
With that, Dr. Bob, we have to go.
Well, we'll just wait and see what good things happen next week, I guess.
All right, thanks for coming in.
Quite all right, thank you.
Transcendent Show.